Every year, Americans spend over $5,400 on impulse purchases. That's not rounding up, that's the average. You didn't plan those purchases. You didn't need them. And within hours of buying, many of them produced a specific, unsettling feeling that researchers have a clinical name for: buyer's remorse. So what exactly happens inside your brain in those critical seconds before you reach for your wallet? The answer is darker than most people expect. In 2007, neuroscientist Brian Knudsen at Stanford ran a now-famous experiment using fMRI brain scanners. Participants were shown products and prices while their brains were being monitored in real time. What he found shook the advertising industry. The moment someone saw a desirable product, a region called the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center, lit up like a Christmas tree. But when the price appeared, another region activated, the insula. The insula is associated with pain, disgust, and loss. The purchase decision, Knudsen found, is essentially a battle between anticipated pleasure and anticipated pain. Desire versus discomfort. And here's the disturbing part: retailers know about this research. They've known for years. Every design choice in a store, every pricing strategy, every layout decision is engineered to maximize the reward signal and suppress the pain signal. You are not browsing. You are being processed. Let's start with dopamine, the neurotransmitter most people misunderstand. Popular culture tells you dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That's wrong. Dopamine researcher Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent decades distinguishing wanting from liking. Dopamine doesn't make you feel good. Dopamine makes you want. It's a craving chemical, a motivational signal that drives you toward rewards. And crucially, it fires before you get the reward. The anticipation is the drug. This matters enormously for retail psychology. Stores don't need to sell you something genuinely satisfying. They just need to trigger wanting. The moment you see a 70% off sign, or a limited time offer, or a product displayed under perfect lighting next to aspirational imagery, your dopamine system activates. You feel the pull. And that pull is not rational. It bypasses your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning and impulse control. Researchers at the Consumer Research Journal published findings showing that people in a state of dopamine activation become systematically less sensitive to price. They underestimate costs. They overestimate how much use they'll get from the product. They imagine a future self who will be happier, thinner, more organized, more stylish, a future self who never actually materializes. The technical term is affective forecasting error. You predict your future feelings incorrectly, every time. Now let's talk about the physical architecture of manipulation. Grocery stores place essential items, milk, eggs, bread, as far from the entrance as possible. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate design forcing you to walk through maximum temptation to reach what you actually came for. Every step past an end cap display, every exposure to a promotional item, increases the probability of an unplanned purchase. The average unplanned purchase rate in supermarkets is between 60 and 70%. Lighting is another weapon. Studies by the Lighting Research Center show that warmer, softer lighting increases dwell time and purchase rates in retail environments. It makes products look more appealing and creates a subconscious sense of comfort and safety. High-end fashion stores use precisely calibrated lighting to make clothes appear more luxurious. You're not imagining that the jacket looked better in the store. The store literally altered your perception of it. Then there's music. In a landmark 1982 study, psychologist Ronald Milliman found that slow background music increased supermarket sales by 38% compared to fast music. Slower tempo means you move more slowly, spend more time in the store, and make more unplanned purchases. Retailers have been using this finding for over 4 decades. The ambient music you barely notice is pacing your behavior with mathematical precision. Scent is perhaps the most insidious tool of all. The human olfactory system is the only sensory system with a direct anatomical connection to the limbic system, the brain's emotional center. When ambient scent company released studies showing that the smell of fresh baked bread increased bakery sales by over 300%, every major retailer paid attention. Today, companies like Scentair design custom fragrances for retail chains specifically to increase purchase intent and brand attachment. Online retail has its own arsenal. The one-click purchase, pioneered by Amazon and patented in 1999, was specifically designed to eliminate the friction between impulse and action. Before one-click, a checkout process that required entering shipping and payment details gave the brain time to activate the insula to feel the pain of spending. Amazon removed that pause. The patent alone was worth billions. When the friction disappears, so does your resistance. Amazon's patent has since expired, and the one-click principle has spread everywhere. Mobile apps are particularly effective at this. Researchers at the University of Arizona found that mobile shoppers are 40% more likely to make impulse purchases than desktop shoppers. The reason is partly convenience, but also physical. Holding a phone creates a sense of personal connection to the product. You are literally touching the thing you're about to buy. Scarcity and urgency are two of the most powerful psychological triggers in consumer behavior. When a website shows you 3 left in stock or a countdown timer ticking toward a sale's end, it activates a cognitive mechanism called loss aversion. Research by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky established that losses feel psychologically twice as powerful as equivalent gains. The prospect of missing out doesn't feel like failing to gain. It feels like losing something you already had. This is why FOMO, fear of missing out, is not merely a social phenomenon. It is a neurological one. And it is being systematically exploited. The 3 left in stock counter on major retail sites is often algorithmically generated to show low numbers even when warehouse stocks are plentiful. In multiple investigations, journalists have documented that these scarcity signals bear no relationship to actual inventory levels. The number is designed, not reported. Social proof is another layer of the manipulation stack. When you see 10,000 5-star reviews or bestseller, your brain outsources the decision to the crowd. This is a cognitive shortcut called herd behavior, and it has deep evolutionary roots. Following the group was often the safest survival strategy. Retailers exploit this by prominently displaying sales ranks, review counts, and testimonials. Some platforms have been caught padding review counts with fake reviews to trigger this exact response. Then there's the bundling effect. When you see buy 2, get 1 free, your brain doesn't calculate unit cost. It calculates perceived value and anchors on the free item as a gift. A 2016 study in the Journal of Marketing Research found that bundling consistently increases purchase rates even when the bundle is more expensive per unit than individual items. The word free deactivates critical thinking. It has been shown in multiple studies to override logical price comparison entirely. Return policies also play a counterintuitive role. You'd think a generous return policy would make people more cautious, knowing they can return something removes the finality of purchase. In reality, the opposite happens. A 2013 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who buy with generous return options use the product less and return it more, but they also buy more in the first place. The safety net increases purchase confidence. Retailers know the return rate and price it in. It's a calculated bet they almost always win. Credit cards and digital payments amplify all of this. Multiple studies, including research by Dražen Prelec at MIT, demonstrate that paying with cash activates the insula, the pain of spending, more strongly than paying with a card. Brain imaging shows that cash purchases look neurologically similar to physical pain. Digital payment methods, by contrast, create what Prelec called the coupling problem, a temporal and psychological separation between the action of buying and the experience of paying. Buy now pay later services have pushed this even further. Products like Klarna and Afterpay are explicitly designed to eliminate the insular response entirely by deferring the pain of payment and fragmenting it into invisible increments. A 2022 report by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that BNPL users carry higher overall debt loads and are more likely to miss payments than traditional credit card users. The product is not a payment convenience. It is a desire amplification tool. So what can actually be done about this? Willpower, it turns out, is largely ineffective. Willpower is a depleting resource, what psychologists call an ego depletion model. By the time you're standing in a store after a long workday, your prefrontal cortex is already compromised. The research on resisting impulse purchases consistently shows that the most effective strategies are structural, not motivational. Don't rely on your resolve in the moment. Change the environment before the moment arrives. Concrete strategies that hold up to experimental scrutiny: shopping with a list and treating it as a hard constraint, not a suggestion. Never shopping hungry. A well-documented 2015 study in PNAS showed that hunger increases preference for any high-value object, not just food. Using cash for discretionary purchases. Implementing a 48-hour rule for any unplanned non-essential item. Deleting saved payment information from apps. Each of these creates friction, and friction is the antidote to impulse. The most important insight from decades of consumer psychology research is this: impulse buying is not a character flaw. It is not a symptom of weakness or poor discipline. It is the predictable, measurable output of a brain that evolved in a world without advertising, now exposed to trillion-dollar industries that have spent decades studying exactly how to bypass your rational mind. Knowing this doesn't make you immune. But it changes the nature of the game. You are not failing at self-control. You are navigating an engineered trap. The Stanford experiment, the dopamine research, the music and sense studies, they all point to the same conclusion. The retail environment is not a neutral space where you make free choices. It is a carefully constructed behavioral manipulation system, optimized through decades of research and billions of dollars in testing. The next time you reach for something you didn't plan to buy, pause for 3 seconds. Ask yourself which part of your brain is making this decision. That pause, just 3 seconds, is often enough to let the insula speak.